Today's agenda, we'll talk a little bit about one of the major differences between Gmail and other types of mail. And it sometimes causes confusion for people. Some people seem to understand it really well, but it's labels versus folders. Then we'll take a look at the Chrome user interface and learn where things are and some of the basics about composing and reading and doing a few things. We'll take a look at how Gmail manages our storage, and then we'll take a look at organizing and search and some settings that are available that you can use to customize how Gmail looks for you. So one of the things that we tend to be used to using in the world of commerce and office and workplace is we think of mail, and if you look at the old way of doing it, snail mail is commonly referred to as a paper piece of mail. You get a piece of mail, you get a letter. And if you want that letter and you want to put it into an organization scheme, you can use folders. And so we have things like file cabinets that have folders in them, and we put pieces of paper or emails in the folders, and that's how we organize things. So a folder can hold many emails, it can hold many pieces of paper. However, one piece of paper, a single document, can only be in one folder at a time. It can't be in two places at the same time. You could duplicate it, but then you're creating copies of it, which are sometimes necessary. But by having one folder that holds an email, any email has to be searched for within a single folder. And that is a little bit different than the way Gmail uses it. My late wife used to use a Rolodex for organizing contact information. And if you remember Rolodexes, they had a little rotating dial on them, and you had little cards, and you would write out a card, and she'd write out a card for, say, Gardner. Okay, and the name of the gardener was Enrique. Okay, so we had a card for Enrique with his phone number under Enrique, and then she would create a second card for Gardner and put it under the G's for gardening. So we had two cards, and then she'd create a third card for people that did our home services that we used for electricians, plumbers, gardening, other maintenance, things like that. So she had cross-referenced systems that existed. But you had to have copies, you had to have duplicates of everything, and so it became a little bit cumbersome. But it was kind of a precursor to the idea of applying a label that can be used on a document in many different ways. So folders are what we think of typically because that's how we think of documents and folders, but Gmail actually uses this concept called labels. And in their developer tools, they refer to labels as a many-to-many relationship. One email can have many labels. In fact, it can have as many labels as you want, which means you can have a tag or a label or identifier on an email for one document, can have gardener, home services, and anything else you might want to apply to it. And one label can also have many emails associated with it, which is acting like a folder, but it's really a label. And so when we look at labels on Gmail, they give you a little more versatility than the old folders approach might do with it. And so that's one of the bigger differences between Gmail and other types of mail applications. Other mail applications use folders, and if you want to put a mail document into a second folder, you've got to create a duplicate of it in order to accomplish that. You can't have one email in two places at the same time. But Gmail lets you do that with labels by applying many labels as you want to a specific email. And labels are a great strategy, and folders are a great strategy for organizing, but you can go overboard on them too. And I've seen people that go way overboard and way too many, labels, and it's hard for them to remember how they labeled things. So that can become a cumbersome scheme as well. So having an organization strategy is really helpful. You also have the ability in all of your emails to search, but search doesn't really always help you because it can show up with different emails. So if I wanted to search for, say, New York in an email, I would get emails that come from the New York Times, but also I would have emails that reference New York as well. And so it might not be a clean organization, whereas assigning a label to an email gives you ability to find them all at once for a particular activity, organization, or subject you want to use. And labels are really easy to apply. And the nice thing about Gmail and most mail is that my mail, because it's run in the cloud by Google, and my Exchange mail and other mail is run in the cloud, it's identical whether I use Apple Mail as an app or Outlook as an app or a web browser, to get to my email with email. So I can make a change in anything and it'll change it and reflect it everywhere because it's synchronized in the cloud. Okay, I'm going to bring up my web browser here, Chrome, and I've got a few emails organized here, nothing terribly fancy, but this is I don't use a lot of different labels in Gmail, oddly enough. I'm not a big user of reorganizing things by label. I use search a lot to do things, but I tend to organize my work email a little bit differently. But what we're looking at here is my Gmail account. And at the top, I've got Gmail. I've got a drop-down menu here that lets me change my menu from a sidebar to a smaller column. There'll be a compose button for composing a new email. There'll be a selection box for selecting any email you want. There'll be refreshing to make sure you refresh and bring in any new email, although it typically shows up in your web browser right away. There's a search filter up on top for searching. We'll take a look at that. And you can see that there are 3 tabs here. What these are called are tabs. There's a primary tab, a promotions tab, and a social tab. Now, Google organizes and applies certain labels automatically. They apply the inbox. That's a label automatically. So anything that is in your inbox will have an inbox label. It'll show you whether it's read or not based on being in bold or not unbolded. That if it's unread, it's unbolded. I can take an email and I can change it to unread by clicking on this little envelope here. And if I click on that, it changes it to unread. So that's one of the options that's available. I can take a look at an email and I can archive it. What happens with Gmail is there's all of your mail is in 3 labels. It's either in all mail, or it's in trash, or it's in spam. Now, you don't see trash and spam here yet, but if I click on more, you'll see spam and you'll see trash. So if I have an email and I want to move it to trash and delete it, I click on delete. If I want to archive it, that removes it from the inbox and is just available in all mail at that point. So an archived email does not get deleted, whereas an email that I delete gets sent to the trash bin. So there's a slight difference in terms of archiving versus trashing. All of your mail, except for what's in trash and spam, is in your all mail label. That's a default label that Google assigns to it. That's always there. And they're in chronological order. So you can find the most recent ones and go back in time anytime you want to. So that's one way to do it. Spam, if you mark something as spam, if you take an email out of your inbox and you choose to label it as spam, it will be moved into the spam folder, and Google will explore the sender to determine whether or not they are actually spamming you or not, whether they're sending out spam emails. So they just don't move it, they actually investigate. And if a certain email addresses get reported as spam too frequently, Google will automatically put spam filters. I send out an email newsletter, and Google and Yahoo, starting, I believe, in February, are going to have more stringent requirements that require email senders to verify that they are the correct sender. It's to minimize what's called spoofing. Spoofing is when you get an email that looks like it came from somebody, but it really didn't come from them. It was a spoofed email address. And Google and Yahoo are implementing new email protocols that will start to minimize that. And so you have a primary email, and Google kind of makes some determinations based on how you read your mail, whether somebody is in your contact list or not in Gmail, to determine what shows up in primary, what shows up in promotions, and what shows up in social. So you can see that this Frontier Fiber isn't in my primary email inbox. And so if I just looked at primary and I never bothered to look at promotions and social, I would never see certain emails coming in, because that's how Google organizes them as a standard mechanism of doing it. And you'll see the categories are here. Categories are labels that Google creates based on using artificial intelligence to kind of decide this is a promotion. And you can see these are actually ads, because Gmail does have ads that it runs. There are updates. That's another type of category. Forums are chats that conversate, communications that take place, and promotions. But these categories will show up in your inbox unless you change it. And some people don't like it, and some people like it. Some people say, I want to make sure I see all my inbox email in one place. So the way to change it, if you want to, is in settings. So the settings are a gear over here. And when you click on the gear for settings, you bring up the quick settings menu. Quick settings lets you change how much information shows up. This is default. You can compact your emails. You can make them a little more comfortable to read. So if you want more emails in a list or fewer in a list, it's a setting for that. You can apply color themes to your mail. But the key thing here is the inbox. I changed mine to default for this class, so you can see what the default inbox looks like. It has primary, promotions, and social. If I click on customize, there's a little pop-up that shows up, says select tabs to enable. So I can say, do I want to see promotions, social, updates, forums, and primary? Do I just want to see primary, where everything's just in primary? So the standard categories are promotions and social and primary. And they plain examples: promotions, marketing, social, political causes, other promotional emails. And they give you examples, like I subscribe to a travel website, Backroads. I have Kayak. I have a Rite Aid, pharmacy prescription. I've got Pete Nick rewards. I get Del Taco emails, so there's promotions that'll show up there. Social will be things that tend to be social networks and other types of social websites. Goodreads is one I use for Amazon reading. Nextdoor, I'll get updates there. So you can choose whether you want to allow Google and Gmail to separate your email into 3 different inboxes or a few more, or you can change the settings and customize it and remove those categories, and it will eliminate them in the tabs. They're no longer here now. And so that's one of the ways to manage your email and change how things are going to show up. So priority inbox also is the ability to enable things that can show up in certain ways. You can use your priority inbox to say, I want important. Google will assign a category, a label of important. Okay. And they'll give you the option to show you what types of mails might show up in those areas. And so they'll give you some ability to do that if you're interested in organizing that. They get into more settings, which creates more challenges for you as well. You can change your page size, your reply behavior, hover actions for your mouse, your default text, how images are displayed, and they have a tremendous amount of things. Some people do not like conversation view. Conversation is also known as thread. So if you have an email dialogue where you're communicating back and forth with somebody, hey, Bill, hey, Carl, hey, Joe, Joe sends a response back, I send a response back, that will be considered a conversation by Gmail. And Gmail will include all of the conversations of the same topic grouped together, as opposed to organizing them based on chronological order. So some people prefer taking conversation view off so that it doesn't do that. So that's one of the things you can do with your Gmail. So we're going to, okay, changes. And so now you can see a little bit different. I have important and unread, starred, and everything else prioritized here. So you can prioritize how you see your inboxes and how you customize it. If I don't want to customize it, I can change the customization options if I choose to, but it gives you a lot of ability to manage the customizations and approach you might want to take to it. Now, a star is a label, but it's a default label that exists as a list in the left. So if you star something, it'll give you the ability to see any starred emails you have in just by clicking on starred. So it's a way to indicate something is maybe highlighted or important and you want to view it. Okay. And it'll tell you if there's no starred messages. Snoozed. Snoozed is a feature that exists on every email. So if you have something that comes in your inbox and you want it to come into your inbox later today, you can click on later today. It's not in my inbox anymore here, but if I go to snoozed, I will see it in snoozed. It'll show up again when the snooze control exists, and I can unsnooze it or pick a date and time. So it's a good way to set up reminders for people that like reminders in some way. Important. Google sometimes applies an important label to emails on its own. You can also apply an important label. If you ever want to take an email and apply a label, you can right click on it. It's really easy. You get a nice drop down menu. You can label it and indicate whether you want it to be a particular label or not, or anything you might want to do. And you can create new labels anytime you want to as well. Or one of the nice things about it is if you know you have an email that came from that sender, but you aren't sure what it is, you could find emails from that sender. So if I go back here, let's see, take like Backroads here, I can find emails from Backroads Travel Update, and it'll automatically locate all of the emails I've received from Backroads Travel Update just by right-clicking on that email. So what it does is it creates a search. So the search is from, that's one of the labels, but this is who it's from, travel update at explore.backroads.com. So if I knew how to search for that sender, I could do it. But by just selecting an email and right-clicking and say search for all emails from that sender. So if I wanted to find all my emails from Amazon or all my emails from Tech Explorer, I could always do that without even applying a label to them. I can always just go to any email in my all mailbox here. So here's something from Lottie files, and I can just go to find emails from Lottie files, and it'll find all the emails from Lottie files for me automatically. It's a great way. That's one reason I think I don't use a lot of different labels on emails, but because I find that just organizing them like that is really great. I don't know if anybody's ever used that right click and used find emails from a sender to sort through labels, but I think it's a really nice. Now, if you wanted to create a label, okay, this happened to come from, let's take Lottie files, or let's take Uber Eats, and I wanted to label this as, create a new label. I can create it as Uber, for example, and it'll create a new label for me, okay? Create new. Now, labels can be nested under other labels. So you can have a label under a label under a label under a label. You can subdivide your labels. I don't care about this, or I could put it, I can select a parent. I can say it's all male. It's going to be an all male anyway. Or I can say, I can say to read, if I want to, and I can create it. So now I've got a label here. And what's interesting is you'll see that in the header of the email, it says mailbox to read slash to read slash Uber. It tells you what labels are applied to that email. So you can identify that. So if I go back here to different mail, you'll see different mail labels that are applied, and I can add and create new ones anytime I want to. You can create new labels by clicking on the plus button. Same interface. So you can create a label from a particular mail, or you can create a label from the labels button here. And so if you ever want to move a mail, when you open up an individual mail or right click on it, right clicking usually gives you the ability to do all of these menu functions that show up when you're looking at an individual mail. But one of the nice things about Gmail is that it has a good translation tool. So I order some things from Amazon Spain once in a while, and my Spanish is getting better. I can understand when a package is in transit now and when a package is delivered and other things like that. From the messages, I'm getting better at reading that. But if you get an email in a foreign language, you can do a translation as well. One of the challenging tools about labels is that there's a lot of ways to manage labels. If you go to settings and you go to see all settings, this is the screen for labels. Okay, so this shows all of the system labels that are here. So inbox, starred, snoozed, important, scheduled, drafts, all mail, spam, and trash are system labels, but also category labels that they create called social, updates, forums, and promotions are here as well. And you can choose whether you want to show the label in the label list on the left or not show it, okay, if you don't want to show it. And here's where you can create new labels and manage your individual labels if you want to, and change them manually. Now, IMAP, okay, if you use another mail application, like I use Apple Mail with my Gmail. So if I want to show the starred labels, inbox is going to show up automatically. You cannot change that because it's grayed out. But if I want to show starred, snoozed, important, chats, sent, scheduled, drafts, all mail, spam, and trash as that will look like folders in IMAP email application. So these will look like folders in my Apple Mail app or my Outlook Mail app or any other mail application I use, so that I have the ability, even though I don't have full access to labels in Google because I'm not using a browser. So now you should see two windows. side by side. This is my Apple email desktop client on the right, and this is my Gmail on the left here, okay? So you can see I've got inbox, drafts, sent, junk, trash, archive, conversation history. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Exchange. Excuse me. Let me go back down to Gmail. Inbox, important, drafts, sent, junk, trash, archive, all mail, mailbox, and affiliates and personal. So all of these labels, because they were selected as IMAP labels, will appear in a different Apple Mail application. So the inbox is the same. Okay, I've got New York Times, I've got Ally Bank, I've got Del Taco, but I've got them in a little bit different order here because I changed the order in my Chrome browser, but I've got customer support, I've got Carl Gable, I've got Del Taco. So the inbox is the inbox, whether I look at it on Chrome or whether I look at it through my Apple Mail application. But in my Apple Mail application, I also have my Exchange email. I also have an iCloud email, my Tech Explorer community email, because I can see all of them in one inbox, which makes it a little bit easier to do. That's one reason why people often use a mail application as opposed to just using the Gmail browser and Gmail by itself. Okay, so let me go back to my Chrome browser here. I find that using all mail a lot is really convenient because it's searchable. You can look for emails by who they're from. So if I wanted to find an email from Joe, I just have to type Joe and click on that, and it'll show me anything email where Joe is in the information here. Okay, and it'll highlight it for me as well in the search. So searching is really powerful. So if I wanted to search for, say, an Amazon, I was working with Travel Pro, and Travel Pro is a luggage manufacturer that makes things. What it'll do is it'll bring up a search like travel. This is where sometimes labels help you solve a lot of organizational issues, because if you want to say, well, I just want my emails from a club or an organization to be under a certain label, it makes it easy to find them. So if I go, for example, to the affiliates label, I'm just going to see emails that I have applied the affiliate label to. If I go to all mail and I type in a search for affiliate, it's going to find anything that has the affiliate word in it, no matter what it is. If it's in the subject, if it's in the content a little bit, if it's in who it's from. So it could be all kinds of emails where organizing and labeling them makes it much more concise and faster to find. So that's why labels sometimes are a really good thing to use, but I wouldn't go overboard on labels because you can overdo the organization sometimes. But there are lots of built-in organization tools within Mail, because if you click on this advanced search button here, it has a guide to help you out. You don't have to understand how the search function works. You can say, I want to have email from, say, Amazon. Okay. I want it to be from Amazon, and I want the subject to be, say, shipment. I don't know if it has there, or it has the words in it and doesn't have certain words in it. And you can look for the size and the date, and it'll search all mail by default, and you can do a search. Now, if I wanted to, I could create a filter for this, but I just want to do a search. A filter, it gives me some information here that has Amazon updates, where it have the word, that have a subject, shipment. Obviously, if I wanted to organize all of my Amazon email into a particular location, I could find an Amazon email and I could create a label for it, or I can create what's called a filter that or automatically puts it that label, attaches that label to it when it comes in. Just like Google automatically applies the all mail label to every mail that comes in, and sometimes it categorizes some as spam, and you can also create filters that apply that labeling scheme to emails as well. But the settings are just tremendously versatile in terms of what you want to do. It's just a matter of how you organize your emails. You can see I don't have a tremendous number of different labels other than the standard ones that Google creates, because I tend to find my email based on who it's from for the most part, or by the date that it was sent, or as well. Sometimes I'll look for that and I'll typically find them. But keeping them all in order chronologically seems to work really, really well for me. Under labels, you have the ability with there's a three dot button selector to the right of them under labels here. You've got, the ability to change how your inbox looks. So if you want to be your inbox, you want to be a priority and kind of have Google do that, or if you'd rather have it say, I'd rather just go with the default. So now if I go to my inbox, we'll make changes not been saved, discard changes. Let's save them. Save changes here at the bottom. And now my inbox will look like the default inbox again. So it gives you obviously the ability to customize it depending on what makes more sense for you in terms of doing anything you might want to do with the settings. The right click feature, is great because you can see here's a quick way to reply. You don't have to, move up to reply. There's obviously things like keyboard shortcuts as well. Reply all, forward as attachment. Archiving just takes it out of the inbox and keeps it in all mail, whereas deleting will put it into trash. So if we look at spam, it says messages that have been in spam for more than 30 days will automatically be deleted. And if we look at trash, messages that have been in trash for more than 30 days will be automatically deleted. And one of the things to keep in mind about your Gmail storage is that you will see a small icon here at the bottom that tells you how much of your storage is being used. Now, a few days ago, I signed up for Google One. So normally you would have 15 gigabytes of free storage space from Google. And that includes everything you store in your Google Drive. So it includes documents, it includes slides, it includes any photos, and it includes any email. So email texts that are just text-based emails, they don't use up a lot of space, so that I've been well under 10 gigabytes for an awful long time without having to really delete any email. But one of the features that I used that I wanted to sign up for with Google One is they do have a virtual private network application that is included with Google One as part of the $1.99 a month fee. So I decided, well, I'll just sign up for that. So now I have a lot of storage. It shows me my Google One. It'll show you how much of your storage is being used. See, my Gmail is under 6 gigabytes. I used photos for a while to share some things back. You can free up account storage in your space if you want to, but you can, check your benefits anytime you want to. I do get a few more features in Google Photos with something called Magic Eraser. I get alerts on the dark web, but the main thing I wanted the VPN. I was paying, I think $70, $80 for a separate VPN application. And for, $24 a year, I get a VPN app that I can use not only on my desktop, but also on my mobile devices as well. And since I travel to Spain periodically, it's really something nice. And you can also share your storage with other people, although 100 gigs is not a huge amount of storage, but it's something that you can manage and take care of. So I did it just for the VPN. I thought it was worth it for me because it eliminated the need to pay for another service and give me some additional space, which if at some point I need it. But I just don't worry too much about deleting old emails. Other people do. Okay, so hopefully you learned one or two things about Gmail that you might not have known before. But it's a very versatile tool. It does integrate with other desktop, mobile, and apps. Gmail does have a Gmail app for Android and a Gmail app for iPhone and a Gmail app for iPads, so that you do have the ability to download an app for your Gmail, and you don't have to use the default mail app that comes with your device.